Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. So excited to be back here on this Monday here on the show. Since there's not much news to report as of right now on the results of the Trump-Zelensky meeting, I figured what better to do than to give a way too early prediction on the 2028 presidential campaign, discuss both sides, both parties, and make some predictions on who I think is going to end up being the nominee for both parties and then who I think would win out of that matchup. So, welcome back to the Quest for Clarity podcast.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve System.
Only America first.
End all of these wars. America is trying to play empire. We want everything released, and you're actively covering it up. It's not America first to be pushing our influence in areas where it shouldn't be. We're run by people that don't understand what they're doing and don't understand the ramifications of the policies they're enacting. That's an incredibly dangerous situation. So before we dive in, I do want to remind you guys, please be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube. I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. And also, please be sure to follow me on Instagram and X, and as well as the Spotify for the audio version of this podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. But let's dive right into this. So, 2028, I know it's a long way away, but I do want to start the conversation right now on who could potentially be the nominee, who could be the guy or the girl on either side of the ticket, and who could potentially be the president after 2028. So for the Republican side, we'll start off with, I'm going to give who I think it's going to be, and I'm also going to give who I hope it is, who I would support in the primary process. So I do have a list here for both parties of 5 potential candidates of who I think, really it's 4 likely candidates who I think could all potentially run in 2028. And then I did include a wild card, someone who may or may not run, that could really shake up the race on both sides. So we'll get into that. But let's start off with why it's important for the Republicans to pick the right person in 2028. So the Republicans are really looking for somebody that is going to continue the MAGA legacy, essentially, is what it seems like the goal will be. Now, I think that goal is going to lead them down the wrong path, and I think it's going to actually lead them down a very bad path. But we'll get into that. But that is essentially going to be what the Republicans' goal is going into 2028. They're going to try and find the next Trump-like figure, but it's going to end up being most likely, I'll just give you my prediction now, I think it's going to be J.D. Vance, who is the nominee in 2028. I hope that is not the case. You guys can go watch my previous episode on the Vance-Rubio ticket and why I think that would be a disastrous ticket for the Republicans to run in 2028. It's not that I don't think they would have a chance at winning. It's that I don't want them to win. I think that they are not genuine, number one, and I think that their background, their history, and who their donors are, who have really helped them rise in their careers as politicians, really does not sit well with me, and I'm not comfortable with them in positions of power that, basically given the people that are funding them and have helped them throughout their career, I'm not comfortable with them being in the positions that they would be if they were to win. So, on the Republican side, the 5 potential candidates I have would be, of course, J.D. Vance. I also think Thomas Massie, the representative from Kentucky, would have a strong shot in a primary if he were to run. I don't think he would be able to outlast the media swarm around J.D. Vance, but I do think there is a potential that if he ran, he would get support from people like Tucker Carlson, perhaps, or maybe Joe Rogan, or Theo Vaughn, or Tim Dillon. Some of these podcasters. Candace Owens has already said she would support him. I think Dave Smith, the libertarian commentator, would probably support him because he's more of a libertarian. And I think he would have the potential to carry the same type of energy that the Ron Paul campaigns did back in 2008 and 2012. So I think if he ran, it would basically be a 2-man race between him and J.D. Vance because I think he would get a lot of the alternative media support that, as we all know, is very crucial in modern elections, as was on display in 2024 when Donald Trump went on all the podcasts and won after Kamala Harris went on pretty much none of them. The other potential candidates I have here, I do have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who we've discussed his whole history in a prior episode as well. I really don't like him at all. He's the current Secretary of State, of course. He was the Florida senator, and he ran for president in 2016. And I'm sure at some point again, he's probably going to run again, whether it's this cycle or maybe after J.D. Vance, if J.D. Vance were to win. Or he may be a vice presidential candidate for J.D. Vance if he doesn't end up running in this cycle. So we've explained his whole history before. We don't have to get completely back into it. But he is basically funded by the antithesis of Make America Great Again and America First. So he's funded largely by the Israel lobby. He's funded by the same war profiteers that have gotten us into disastrous war after disastrous war. And basically, I don't agree with him on a large number of foreign policy issues specifically. And I just don't think he's genuine whatsoever. So I would not support him. Next potential one, I have Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who of course ran in 2024 and basically had a disastrous campaign. He was in second most of the time behind Donald Trump, but just never got off the ground. He's incredibly awkward. He's not charismatic at all. And I don't think he would have a very good chance if he were to run in 2028. Also, he would be 2 years removed from the governorship of Florida, which his term ends in 2026. So I don't think he would have the momentum. I don't think he'd have the political capital, and I don't think he would have the support to run in 2028. So I don't think it's going to be him. My wild card for the Republicans, which has been rumored to be potentially planning a political run, is Steve Bannon. Now, Steve Bannon was basically the chief strategist behind the original 2016 Donald Trump campaign. Steve Bannon was the guy who basically... he was kind of the mastermind behind the craziness, the wildness, the unpredictability of the 2016 campaign for Donald Trump. And he worked in the White House for a bit during the first term. And he's always been pretty close with Trump. They had a falling out, and then now they're friendly again. But he's been right about a lot of the issues that have come up in this first term, or in this second term, excuse me. Like the potential of a war with Iran, he's been correct about. The Epstein scandal. He's been with the base on a large amount of these issues, and I think if he ran, I don't think he would win, but I think he'd shake it up in a very big way, because if you get Steve Bannon on that debate stage, there's no telling what could happen. So it would be amazing to watch, to say the least. So that's what I have for the Republican side. I hope it's Thomas Massie. I don't think it's going to be. I think it will be Vice President J.D. Vance. But let's get into the Democrat side. So the Democrats are in shambles right now. As much as I want to talk about why I don't think J.D. Vance would be a good candidate, it's not that he wouldn't have a good chance if he were to be the candidate, because the Democrats have nobody besides the wild card, who I think if he were to become the nominee would have the best chance of winning, probably out of any of these candidates I have here. But we'll get into that at the end. Of the 5 Democrats I have starting off with Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris decided to not run for governor of California in 2026, basically signaling that she's thinking about running for president again in 2028 because she wouldn't want to be bogged down with that job while running a campaign. Either that or she's just taking a break. But I think it's most likely because she's being the careerist that she is, she's going to probably run for president again in 2028, which, I mean, she's lost twice. Both were disastrous campaigns, and I don't think that there's much will for a Kamala Harris part 3. So if she were to run, I don't think she'd have a great shot, except for the fact that she's the previous nominee, so that carries some automatic weight with it, but I don't think she'd have a great shot. Number 2, and in my opinion, the favorite, not my personal favorite, the favorite to win the Democrat nominee would be Governor Gavin Newsom from California, who is making a big spectacle recently. Basically, he's become the face of the Democrat resistance, quote unquote, to the Trump administration. So he's been doing things like mocking Trump on Twitter, copying his tweet style with the all caps and the exclamation points, and he's trying to make a name for himself as the opposite of Trump, as the resistance leader, basically. And I think he's going to be the nominee, if I had to guess right now, just because he is the establishment hack that would get all the big money, all the mainstream media attention. I think in a general, he'd be in pretty big trouble. Number 1, I think that his disastrous management of California, admitted by California leftists, go look at some California leftists who are on TV or on YouTube. They admit that Gavin Newsom's leadership has been horrific. Things like lowering felonies to misdemeanors, basically letting criminals run wild, basically running the cities. Homelessness is like insanity in every major city in California. Entire city blocks taken up by hundreds and hundreds of homeless people. I mean, it's just a disaster area for him, as well as the mismanagement his insane COVID restrictions, followed up by him going maskless into the fanciest restaurant in Los Angeles. There was also, of course, the wildfire disasters and all of the stuff that is just a sign of terrible leadership from him. And I don't think he'd be in a great place when it comes to a general. But I think in the primaries, he'll probably get by. Number 3, I have Pete Buttigieg, who is going lower and lower down the list as the days go on. He seems like a nice guy, and that's all you can really say about him. He's just nothing. He's just nothing special. He's the most milquetoast candidate since Mitt Romney, probably. I mean, he doesn't really represent anything. He's just kind of there, and he's just like he doesn't really have anything to say. I mean, he was on the Pod Save America podcast when they were talking, the other day, and they talked to him about Israel, and he gives a Kamala Harris loop-de-loop answer where he's basically at the end of all the words, he hasn't made a point. He does this a lot, so I think that would be a disastrous campaign. He doesn't really have anything unique to say or bring to the table, so I don't think he's going to be the nominee. Number 4 and 5 are kind of both wild cards. Number 4, I have Representative Ro Khanna. So he is a very progressive representative congressman from California. Him and Thomas Massie actually were the two people in Congress that created the bipartisan bill to release the Epstein files after the cover-up began. And I think he would have a pretty solid shot. I think he would kind of carry the wave of the old Bernie Sanders campaigns. And being that he's younger, I think he would have a bit more energy to those campaigns. And he has more of a fight that Bernie Sanders didn't have. If he got cheated out of the elections like Bernie Sanders did in 16 and 20, he'd probably not just give up his electors to Hillary Clinton like he did. He'd probably fight a little bit harder. So that would make him a tougher opponent in a primary. But I think he has some interesting ideas. I don't agree with him on like anything besides the Epstein stuff. But I mean, he's genuine at least. He doesn't. I don't believe he takes corporate PAC money. I don't believe. So he's a genuine guy who I have genuine disagreements with. Seems like a nice enough guy. But I don't think he'd win the nomination just because for the mainstream left, he's kind of too progressive for the mainstream media. And I think that machine would probably just kill him. But I think he'd have a shot, but I don't think he'd win. And then my wild card for the Democrats is Jon Stewart. Yes, the TV host, Jon Stewart. And the reason for this is that I think the Democrats, or at least the base, are looking for a Donald Trump type figure to just destroy the establishment and just grab the party and just take it away from the establishment, rip it away from the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, who've held control of the party for decades at this point. They're looking for someone like Jon Stewart to just do what Trump did to the Republican establishment and just go on stage and just say you're all a bunch of corporate hacks that are doing whatever the donors tell you to do. Jon Stewart has done that before. He's done that in congressional hearings. He's spoken on different issues. Now, I disagree with his opinions and his positions on all these things, but he is coming from a very genuine place of calling all these people out on their corruption. So I think he would have a strong chance. If he ended up running, it was very close between him and Gavin Newsom, and I may actually, as I'm talking about this, I may actually say that if Jon Stewart runs, I'm going to probably change my prediction here. I think Jon Stewart would be the nominee if he were to run. Now, for the sake of this, I'm not sure I don't think he's going to run. So I'm going to keep my prediction that Gavin Newsom will win the nomination here, if I had to guess as of today. But if Jon Stewart ran, I think he would have a very strong chance of winning. This brings us to the general election between, in this scenario, J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom. Now, the question here is, I think so much of there's kind of two factors here that come into play that create the overarching theme of an election. There's kind of, what is the referendum on? Is it a referendum on, in this case, the Trump presidency, which would mean J.D. Vance, or is it a referendum on Democrats' unpopularity, which would be Gavin Newsom? Or the other thing that could come into play here is personality. While both of them I don't think are very genuine, I think JD Vance comes across a lot more genuine than Gavin Newsom does. I mean, Gavin Newsom is just, if you had to look up slick politician, it would be Gavin Newsom. I mean, that guy looks like a lizard. From the slick back hair to the perfectly tailored suits, I mean, everything about him is just slick and corrupt looking. And he just does not feel genuine at all. He feels just, if plastic was a politician, it's Gavin Newsom. So I just really don't think that on a national stage he would win over like people in the middle. I think people in the middle, I think people don't give enough credit to the average everyday people that are looking at these, that don't pay attention to politics as much as people like who watch this show. Everyone, I mean, you can pretty clearly see through who's genuine and who's not. Like, it doesn't take too much prior knowledge to see that someone like Gavin Newsom's not genuine. I mean, he started his podcast earlier this year in a very obvious stunt to try and become like the podcast bro, because he realizes that it's popular. He's trying to copy. He's doing all these things that kind of seem like he's trying to have fun here. He's trying to mock Donald Trump on Twitter, but it all seems very fake and very manufactured and phony. And I don't think it comes across in the way that he hopes it would. So I'm going to say that in this general election matchup, I think JD Vance will come out victorious. As much as I mean, if it was in this matchup, I'm obviously going to support JD Vance over Gavin Newsom. That doesn't mean that I'll be excited to go and run out and vote for Peter Thiel's guy and vote for Palantir to run wild unchecked. That's not what I'm supporting if I'm supporting Vance over Newsom. It would be just basically I don't want Gavin Newsom in charge of anything. That's basically why I would be hoping that JD Vance would win in this scenario. But again, I really hope Thomas Massie chooses to run in the 2028 primaries, because I think between him and if Steve Bannon chose to run, that would shake up the entire thing. If we get two outsiders on that debate stage, that would be wild, and I think it would just kind of expose the entire game. So I really hope that would happen, but I'm not exactly. I hope that happens. I'm not hopeful that it will happen. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. I think we'll wrap it up there. Again, sorry, a little bit of a slow news day. We have Donald Trump and Zelensky meeting right now. No real results coming out of that, so nothing really to cover in regards to that at the moment. But we'll most likely be able to cover that in the coming days once more results of that meeting come out. So please be sure to stay tuned for more on that, as well as every other story in the news. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, X, and Spotify for more content on over there. And yeah, have a good day.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve system.
Only America first.